I'll start over. So congratulations again on your MRDA awards. They were very competitive this year, as always, and you guys did a great job with your submissions. In getting started, we put together, mostly Aaron, put together an orientation package, and I will go through the materials that are in that orientation package and then resend. If you haven't gotten them already, you'll get everything. So we're going to start the packet. There's a PDF that contains several files that we'll go through that are linked together, and then there's 2 Word documents that we'll send to you. So overall, where I want to start is here on the website where you submitted. So just to review the timeline, I think a couple of you, I think Corinna actually, who's not on, I'll talk to her later, has already started. You are available to start your MRDA anytime, but you have to start your MRDA by February 1st, and all MRDA work has to be completed by July 31st, with the exception of folks, and this doesn't apply to the people who are on the call at the University of Delaware, and if anyone's interested in why they have a shorter timeline, I'm happy to discuss that. Aaron, whose email address is here, who's on the call, and who you probably heard from, is the administrative contact and the administrative coordinator for the MRDA program for all the sites. So MUSC, Christiana, Nemours, and University of Delaware. She's currently on maternity leave with her third, Jake, who's a gorgeous baby boy, and will be back full-time in January.
Hello.
So, hey, hello.
Yeah, Vin Pellegrini from MUSC. Hello.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us. This is Rob Akins in Nemours, at Nemours up in Wilmington.
How are you, Rob?
I'm doing well. So Jake is on. He's in clinic and has muted his microphone. And if we can, there's about 8 people on. So if we can ask you to mute your microphone too. If you want to talk, I have a question, just push your space bar.
Will do. I'm in clinic also, so I will mute in a different place, but I'll mute mine as well right now. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So some of you have let me know if you've got a solid start date for your MRDA. Please let us know. And one of the things we'll go over is the contact list for your OSP, your sponsored projects administrators at your institution. All right, any questions on the timeline and when everything needs to be wrapped up? Excellent. Oh, I had left it open, but I guess it doesn't stay open on its own.
Rob, Vin Pellegrini again. I'm sorry for the interruption. Quick question. Is there a video component to this that I should be working on with you or no?
If you're on a computer, I'm sharing my desktop through the Blue Jeans network. Are you on a computer?
I can be. Yes.
There's some visual. I'll send you all the material, but it's helpful if you can see what I'm pointing at.
All right, so I'll get on then. I'm not sure.
Here we go. That's what I'm looking for. All right, so, and also to review at the outset that the MRDAs are associated or support activities associated with your preparing a larger grant. So this is all about mentored interactions and the development of a submission of a grant in the summer, typically in the summer of 2016 going forward. They're not intended to support supplies or costs associated with enrolling subjects. And there are a number of administrative reasons in the structure and how the funding flows for the MRDAs that we cannot support that kind of thing with MRDA funds. So these funds are specifically to offset your time and protect some of your time so you can work on the preparation of a grant, which we found to be a very effective way to increase the likelihood of funding for grant submissions. All right, and there are some examples, and again, this is from the submission, so you guys saw all this stuff when you submitted and proposed what you would want to do. But I just want to review that these grants are all about you working with mentors and working with our group in getting your grant ready to go. Questions on that? All right. Here we go. There's a document that we'll send you with the expectations for the mentees, the junior folks who are working on their MRDAs. and you can review these. The things that are highlighted, which Erin highlighted, I want to emphasize with you, that you should meet regularly with your primary mentor, and you'll be asked for a progress report quarterly, which will come to you, sort of a progress report and an update of how your interactions are going, which will come to you in an email request, and you'll send us the information back using an online interface. The mentees and mentors will meet biannually with MedCore. MedCore is the Mentoring, Education, and Career Development Core that I lead with our team leaders, just to make sure everything is going well. You guys are a 6 months, so really you'll meet essentially once, or at the beginning and at the end of your term. These expectations apply to the pilot investigators too, who are on for longer. You should complete an individual career development plan and you have like a start of one as part of the submission, but I strongly recommend using those. You can use the online, we prefer you use the online system that was set up through the Excel program. If that doesn't work for you, just let me know. If sketching out your short and long-term goals on a cocktail napkin works well for you and your mentor, that's great too. The key is to clearly articulate what you're working on in your development plan and share that with your mentor and your mentoring team. Again, this should be reviewed annually in the broad scheme of things, but during your MRDA, we really like you to get started and kind of used to the idea of thinking about your trajectory with these short and long-term plans. And Jake, down at MUSC, there's a strong program, especially in medicine. So if you prefer to use that, that's great. Just let us know how you're tracking and how your planning is being managed. There are some assessments that are required, and you'll get those, and you'll get automatic reminders from our system. They're not dissimilar to assessments you've probably seen before. We ask you questions about how your interaction, for example, for the mentees, how your interaction with your mentor is going, and we ask the mentor how the mentee is doing. In most cases, that's data for us, so that we can get an idea of how interactions within the CTR and across some of the institutions work. In rare cases, as those are reviewed, there might be an intervention that's needed on behalf of the mentee by the MedCore. That's unusual. In fact, I don't anticipate that with the groups, but you are required to fill those out. And part of that is so as we build more of the program, we get feedback from you on how those tools are actually working, and make sure that we get some data on the progress of the individuals and sort of your sense of how the program is going. So the mentees are required to fill those out. By the same token, switch the mentor. The mentor, we have a mentor, mentoring the mentor program that we would like them to participate in. And as we get started with the MRDAs, they'll be included in those sessions. And there are specific recommended areas of mentoring. I'm not sure why we highlighted securing promotion and tenure, but that's a specific area for any developing investigator that should be focused. That should be a focus with their mentor. The MRDA itself should be or the time spent working on the MRDA program should be highly focused on developing a grant and submitting a grant. That's what the money's for. The long-term success of the program depends on us being able to show that we can increase the rate at which clinicians successfully submit on time their grant proposals. Typically, and this is probably common sense to everybody on this call, clinicians and even investigators without as much sort of stress on their time tend to kick the can down the road and submit later and later. And that's not a good strategy for success. You want to be able to get your grant put together as tightly and as well as you can and submit it. So that's one of the hallmarks that we measure. Did you get your grant out the door when you wanted to? And then secondly, did you get it funded? And for us long-term to maintain this MRDA program and our ability to support people writing their grants, we need those data. So mentors, we're asking you to specifically focus on that with the MRDA, but keep in mind, and we'll send you these documents, keep in mind that you're also, which you already know, you're also helping them in a broader way to develop as investigators. All right. So I'm going to go into the packet, and we'll send this to you. It's an agreement that we stole is too wrong of a word, but pretty much got directly from MUSC and modified a little bit, and they got it from someone else. And I think the documents been modified some even at Medical University of South Carolina. It's just a commitment between the mentor and the mentee that they were all on the same page about what should be happening and about what the core principles are that we're centering the development of the junior investigator around. Because this is CTR, clinical and translational research, we are encouraging and will provide educational opportunities for faculty to develop their competency in clinical and translational research. When you get this, there's a link, which I won't go to. Many of you are probably familiar with those core competencies. There are 14 categories that the CTSA consortium came up with. They're very broad-based, and within each one of those, there's specific criteria. So we're not asking, during an MRDA for everyone to accomplish or be trained in these competencies, but we want everyone to be on board with that's part of the long-term goal. And to be clear, the MRDA is a limited amount of time and sort of a focused effort, but now you guys are part of the larger CTR family, so you'll continue to get invitations to educational opportunities and mentoring support from the core, from the key component activity that we put together, and as much help as we can put together toward these core competencies. So a lot of this, the rest of this is just emphasizing our commitment and acknowledgments. But the key one for the mentees, for the junior folks, is that they need to be active participants in the interactions with their mentor and acknowledge that the primary responsibility for their development is actually up to them. And that should be, I think that's, again, with this group, which is very high performing, I think that's kind of obvious. But we've found in others in South Carolina and other places, I found just saying it, getting people to agree to it and signing it, a document like this is tremendously helpful in focusing the interactions. Right. So there are some other statements about the conduct of the study in a recognition of how the MRDA, which is a really small part of the overall research trajectory, but how that trajectory is supported by mentoring. Right, so you guys will be asked to take a look at this and sign it with your mentors. I think everybody signs the same one. So is that we set it up? I'll find that. I don't want to give people seizures as I jump around on this. Any questions about this? Excellent. All right. Excel, which is the name of the program, CTR, which stands for Clinical and Translational Research, is sort of the title of the grant. So the Delaware Clinical and Translational Research Program is called Excel. So you'll see that, and that's how we would like you to refer to the program. It's the Excel program. And this is the sort of the letterhead and the logo that was developed. This is a newsletter from August. I think you guys will get these automatically, and I'm sorry for the additional email that might engender. If you are LinkedIn or Twitter fluent, both of those things, Excel is on social media, and announcements of Blue Jeans, for example, these events that we hold across campus that are accessible by Blue Jeans, educational events and lectures, you can be notified by those through social media. There's also an online forum, and there's a lot of connections actually between the principal investigators, the resources available through the Excel program, and the broader community that Excel is launching and putting together. But this is primarily, and you can take a look at this newsletter when you get it. I believe this may have been the first one that came out. But it summarizes activities. This is August, so some of these activities have already passed. But I wanted to give you guys a heads up that these things are coming and to look for them. And if you find that you're not getting enough information about opportunities, let me and Aaron know, and we'll try to see if there's some reason why you're not on the distribution list, or that you're not linking correctly, or we're not linking correctly to you to make sure that you know about everything that's going on. So some of the things that go on routinely, for example, are what's called, there's an innovative discovery series that started in the like the statistics and biodesign group, and was very focused on the nuts and bolts of particular research designs and statistical analyses. That's expanded out now, so that there are innovative discovery discussions on a whole range of topics. So I did one, it was actually in August of this year, on mentoring for clinical and translational science. Those are available sort of real time as they're being broadcast, and then they're posted on the website. And I don't want to navigate through the website too much. It's a little tricky getting around in there, and I want to stay focused as much on the MRDA. But as part of the orientation, you should know that there are newsletters, and there is a pretty, it's becoming more robust, but a pretty extensive set of tools available through the Excel website. Questions on that newsletter and information and how to link to it? Great. All right, so you all filled out a mentoring plan online as part of your, with your mentors as part of your submission. And I encourage you, if you don't have copies of them, let me know. You can let me know right now, or you can shoot me an email, or better, shoot an email to Erin and I both, so that she will see it when she gets a chance, and I'll take a look at it to get you a copy. It's extremely helpful, and there's more and more data about the utility of mentoring plans and individual development plans. So I know the initial assembly of these ideas and how you're going to work together was put together for the grant, but I encourage you to go back and look at your mentoring plan. This is just a blank one, and this is how a report spits out that the MedCore folks and the mentoring committee can look at. So part of what we'll be looking at is whether or not the mentoring plan that you put together is being followed, and we'll get that through interactions with you and from your online assessments that come back. And what we really would like to hear from you are whether or not it's working for you, if there are better ways or suggestions you might have for improving the interface and how mentoring plans are implemented through the Excel program. Right. So again, if you don't have your mentoring, I don't know if you have the copy of what was sent in to the MedCore. I'd be happy to send it to you, and you'll get, as part of all that information you filled in, will trigger requests for more survey information from you. I think the next thing is the IDP. No. Okay. So I don't know if the IDP is in here. When you cite the grant, so anything that is built from resources coming from the CTR grant through the Excel program should be cited using, this is the wording, the specific wording that the NIH would like us to use, and that's the grant number. So you'll get sent this. The MRDA program, since we're not sponsoring research, we really need you to cite the grant if that MRDA is used or allows you later on, or is important later on to your publication. But in general, the use of the resources through the Excel program should be cited, and that's the specific grant number. The principal investigator overall is Stuart Binder-McLeod, who's now in the provost's office, but he's a former chair of the physical therapy department at University of Delaware. Which is top 2, I think, in the, probably he would say number 1, but I think San Diego, and they are 1 and 2 in the country. So Stuart's the overall PI for that. So when you cite, please use this number, and that number will be sent to you. And this is the wording. It's a U54 grant. For those of you who aren't familiar with the different types of grants, the U indicates that this is a cooperative agreement grant between NIH and Delaware. The University of Delaware is the prime, and then the other institutions associated, as opposed to a P grant or an R grant. What that means functionally is that NIH and the leads, Stuart and the rest of us who are leads on the Excel program work closely with NIH in a cooperative way. So that's why it's a U54 grant, right? But please make sure that you have that number and that you reference it in your presentations or any place where your support from the CTR is important to that presentation. Okay, so these are some of the support services and contact information for those folks. One of the big ones, which I think I believe you all contacted the EpiBiostat Core online. They have an online interface to request statistical help, whether that's in designing your study, analyzing data, getting through comments back from from an editor on a publication associated with your statistics. Right now, that core is fully supported through the Excel program. And since you are you're one of the faculty now that are directly supported, anything that you submit through the EpiBiostats core will go to a high priority. In fact, you're asked, how are you coming into the system? You should encourage other faculty, so for the mentors, other faculty in your departments or your divisions, and for the mentees, other faculty that who are working on projects, whether they're funded by Excel or not, they can take advantage of this. The core group, the EpiBiostats core, will get back to whoever puts a request in. It's just a question of when they can do that and where they are on the priority list. So I strongly recommend it. It's one of the biggest benefits that you can get from the Excel program is to have a top-notch statistician help you with your design for the grant that you're writing to submit next summer. So I know most of you, I believe all 4 of you, contacted them already, but I strongly encourage you to follow up and really take advantage of them. It's quite a strong program. And they do a whole bunch of different levels of support. You'll see that on the website when you go in. And to get to it, you log into the CTR website here, and then from your dashboard, in a minute I'll pull up a dashboard and show you. It's pretty simple to get there from your account and submit a request. All right, any questions about that? You guys are very easy to orient. I appreciate that. Here's the IDP. This is in a different order. So I cannot emphasize enough the idea of using some type of individual development plan. If you're a pilot investigator, we insist that you use these. The MRDAs are relatively short time frame, but I also strongly recommend that you use this specific interface. The data associating the use of an IDP with successful career advancement is pretty tight. The more specifically, let me see if we can get down here. Is this a real one or is this? Oh, it's over here. Okay. The more specific you can be with this as you're working with your mentor, the better. But it's better to have something than nothing. So in the online interface that we have within several different domains, including leadership, for example, you're asked for goals. And it's interesting, one of the goals is a clinical or set of goals. And even the researchers who aren't clinicians will often click it, which I think is great, and sort of explain in the clinical realm of the patient populations they're interested in where they would like to where they would like to develop further, right? So having very concise and specific statements about what exactly you want to do, articulated in a way that the oversight group within CTR can understand them, but more importantly, that you and your mentor and your mentoring team can all focus on the same thing. And it's meant to be essentially a living document. So if you propose the first meeting you have with your mentor as part of your MRDA, that you will have a draft specific aims page on his or her desk by some date. The next time you meet with them, you pull it out and you look at it. And if you missed that deadline, you can have a conversation about importance of specific aims pages, what happened and why couldn't you meet your deadline, and how you and the team can better reach your short-term goals going forward. So they're meant to be a living document. None of us are going to, even at the level of the oversight group that's kind of following how things are working, are going to hold your feet to the fire if you don't reach the goals. What we're really looking for, from my perspective and from the Excel program's perspective, is that you're using the tool, and then we'll ask you questions. Well, how effective was it? But if you don't use the tool, we can't get that information back and refine things down. And I can tell you, so I guess we got this version of the IDP from the Department of Medicine at MUSC, modified it somewhat ourselves, but Mark Chimowitz from Sector has already changed parts of the IDP that they use for fellows and junior faculty. So going forward, I think we'll have multiple options available, and working with your mentor, you can pick which one is the most effective. I don't really recommend you writing things down on a cocktail napkin, but if that's the only way you can get things to work, you can do that too. We'll just want some way of tracking it. So you can look forward probably over the next 6 months while you are in your MRDA, there might be other options here. But I cannot overemphasize the use of these and the benefit of actually sitting down and specifically articulating your short and long-term goals and working with your mentor about those. All right, any questions? Does everyone get that IDPs are important? All right, you guys are still there, right? All right, the Mentoring Education and Career Development Core itself, this document was put together as some of what we offer and some of what you'll be receiving information about. All right, and that includes the mentors and the mentees involved in these MRDAs. So there's Mentoring the Mentor group that meets. We meet by Blue Jeans over the summer, and then as Erin's been on maternity leave, that slowed down a little bit. But during the regular school year, we try to have a session monthly, and they're recorded and they're available through the Excel website. So the first one was Mark Chimowitz from Medical University of South Carolina talking about effective mentoring and how you measure it. And mentors from multiple institutions, I forget how many people are online while he was presenting that, and then it's discussed. It's all recorded and it's posted on the website. Those groups, I'm sorry, and in addition to that, we have an annual best practices in mentoring session through Excel that the past 2 years has been associated with the annual meeting. For 2016, we're going to separate that best practices session from the annual meeting, and I hope try to do it more in conjunction with a program that MUSC runs in the springtime. But there is a best practices in mentoring session, and the keynote presentations and some of the sessions that are recorded from that are also available on the website. There's Mentoring and Advisory Committee, right, that meets. These can be things like, I'm blanking on what we call them. Well, we call mock study sections now. They had another terminology before we had mock study sections, but these are interactions for 1 or 2 junior mentees at a time, meeting with a group of senior mentors. Usually it's about a grant they're getting ready to pull the trigger on submission, so we can do a mock study section or a review of it, or just sort of a face-to-face meeting over recommendations coming from some senior people who write and review grants routinely. And publications that are being put together, so a presentation of the data and sort of a vetting of the data and how the paper will be put together, again with a group of senior investigators. So that's the Mentoring and Advisory Committee. There's also a Junior Investigators Network, which is still growing. Before Erin went out, I think there were about 80 people, 80 junior investigators on the list, and we will be over, I'm guessing around 110 by the time we get most of the junior people who have an interest in clinical and translational research, from some from Medical University of South Carolina, and they're strongly encouraged, to participate but most of those are from the state of Delaware. And the junior investigators, the main thing we're doing with them right now is a group of junior investigators meeting with one mentor or one or two around a specific topic. So November 17th is the next meeting of this network. And again, it's by Blue Jeans. So if you're on the campus of the person who's presenting, and Melinda Duncan from University of Delaware is presenting next week, you can go in the conference room where that person is, or you can log in and listen. And what Melinda's topic that she'll talk about is mentoring for laboratory staff or for research staff. It's not something, it's important, but it's not something that junior investigators necessarily think of until they start building a program and realizing that some key components are the clinical research coordinators, the lab technicians if you're doing that kind of research, or the other kind of professional assistance that you need in the lab or associated with your research program, and that helping them realize their career goals, even though you're a junior investigator, is part of your job. And it's a highly recommended skill to develop, because keeping your research coordinators happy and engaged and developing is key to your future success. You don't want to have a high turnover. People do leave. They'll come to work for a little while and then go to medical school, or between degrees or something while they're trying to figure things out. But you'll also have people that will stay for a long time if you help them develop in their careers. So Melinda's going to talk about that and how you manage mentoring within the scope of developing your own program for researchers or for assistants, research assistants in the laboratory. That's November 17th. There's a pitch, protest, and ponder, which always makes me smile because it's a group of junior investigators and one or two, a small number of senior investigators, but they can ask questions about anything, present ideas that they have, get feedback, discuss current challenges. So as a senior person, that one's the hardest one to do any kind of homework or preparation for. So you walk in. I've done one of these. They rotate who the senior faculty is, and you might get questions about how difficult the IRB process is, or a question about I'm trying to find someone with a specific software program for analysis. But those in the Junior Investigators Network have been very helpful and get great reviews from the people who attend, the junior faculty who attend. From someone like me, the pitch, protest, and ponder makes me nervous going in. For the other ones, I know what the topic is and I can prepare for it. But they're actually a lot of fun. And those are also, again, run through Blue Jeans. Starting in January, although I'm not sure if the date is set, Aaron can chime in when we're done here. We will run a 6 months, a 6-session course in grantsmanship. Again, it's run online, and it starts sort of with a target that you have a summer submission that you're working toward. So you attend that course. Over time, the topics presented in the course help you build the grant you're going to submit, and you get access to experts in different aspects of grantsmanship. So some of the things that you can work on with your mentor, but then some other things about how the review process works, or why different parts of grants are necessary, and the level of effort you need to put into some of the administrative components, and when to start doing that, say for an NIH grant that you want to submit for a summer deadline. So that it's that's been a great course. Melinda Duncan, just coincidentally, who's doing the Junior Investigators Network next week, manages that course, and that starts in January. So you guys as MRDA recipients are required to attend that. It's set up, there's a relatively small number of MRDAs at one time. I think Melinda just works with the group to find a convenient time to do it, knowing that it's never completely convenient for everyone. I think they tend to be in the early evening. All right, so those are five of the support mechanisms that are available through the MedCore. Do you guys have any questions on any of those before I scroll down? All right, excellent. MRDAs you already know about. Oh, there's Aaron. I thought there was something. Oh, here, okay. So in the green over here, these are online tools, and we talked about the mentoring plan and the IDP. One of the things that would be helpful for me, and I think also for the mentor-mentee pair, so these mentoring competency assessments, we set them up as REDCap tools. It's based on a validated sort of survey mechanism developed originally in Wisconsin, and there's been several publications around the MCA, the Mentoring Competency Assessment. We would like to use it, the Excel program, to evaluate whether or not our mentoring interventions, training programs, et cetera, for the mentors are actually effective. And there's at least one publication looking at the competency assessment done before and after a training intervention, and that's been validated. So I request, and I think this is actually something that's triggered by your participation in the program, that the mentors and the mentees, the way this works is that the mentor fills out a competency assessment of themselves, and the mentee fills out a competency assessment of the mentor. And then there's sort of a rubric, an analytic rubric, comparing those two sets of answers after a set amount of time in the program, or after a specific training or intervention, you do it again, and then there's a comparison of whether or not there's an improvement. So that competency assessment is one useful. The mentoring team doesn't use the details in the competency assessment to determine any interventions. We're just looking at the overall data, but reviewing the results of the competency assessment between the mentee and the mentor is extremely useful. And even as a self-reflection tool of how you're mentoring or how you can further develop your mentoring skills, it's a great tool. So there's a full list of tools in the dashboard online, but I wanted to point that one out in particular. All right, any questions? All righty. So there are additional funding opportunities, and one of the goals of the MRDA is to help you write grants toward these internal mechanisms. External is even better, foundations, NIH, but just so you have the contact information and you know what types of award mechanisms are available through the Excel program. And again, for you guys, these are things you can apply to next summer. So the MRDAs, which are at the bottom, you know about. The ACE Awards, which stands for Excel Community Engagement Awards. Those are similar to pilot grants, but they're very focused on community-based participatory research or community engagement in the development of research programs. So they're just kicking off. In fact, this morning I was down at the ACE program talking to their current awardees. When you go on the website in the dashboard, if you look under funding mechanisms, the ACE Awards are one of the possibilities. Not everyone's cup of tea, or not up everyone's alley to apply for one of those, but it is something that you can take a look at if you have a research interest in that area. The pilot of grants, which are through University of Delaware, and these are the main contacts that are listed here. If you have questions about the award mechanisms, the pilot grant awards, you're probably all familiar with those. That's actual research money. It's about $80,000 per year. That money has to go to supporting research, and in fact cannot offset your time. So your time in participating in a pilot grant, the Excel program, has to be an institutional commitment. So as you're writing your MRDA, if you're targeting a pilot, you want to start looking at the pilot and the requirements, pilot grant mechanism. Even though what's posted there is for 2015, you'll notice it's going to be remarkably similar next year. To start figuring out what you have to put together if you're going to apply for a pilot grant. That's one of the key things, especially for clinicians, is if you get a pilot award and you're 25% FTE, on that award, administratively, Charlotte and whoever is the contact, the administrative contact at your institution, have to figure out how your 25% offset by institutional either matching funds or offset right from your division or your department. The big data grant awards are focused on the use of large data sets, and those I think are going into their second iteration. There was a group of big data grants that were funded last year. Those are seed grants to develop a much larger big data program. And again, for this group, just having reviewed what you put into your MRDAs, I'm not sure that's something you will go after, but you should take a look at it in case you're interested. It really is seed money to start a program to access data, evaluate it, analyze it, and apply it in a research sort of paradigm. It's not a huge amount of money. It's enough to get started, but take a look at the big data grant award mechanisms as well when you're online. MRDA you have. The Research Retreats program, which is through, it's associated with the pilot grant award mechanism. Karen Huff's the one that manages those. I forget what they cap out. It's either $5,000 or $10,000 that you can request to run a research retreat around a specific mechanism associated with clinical and translational research. And we ran one. The one I'm most familiar with is one I ran with Dr. Kick, who's a professor in the engineering school at the University of Delaware, that was focused on developing biomedical engineering interactions between the engineering departments at the Delaware universities and the clinical enterprises and hospitals in the state. So the retreat was about bringing clinicians and faculty from the universities, primary faculty from the universities, together around specific problems, especially pediatrics, that had engineering solutions. So that was funded, I guess, a year and a half ago now. But again, those funds are available, and mentors and the mentees should be aware of that, and you can find that on your in your dashboard. The EpiBiostats core is what we talked about, that Sarah Faye Heckler is the coordinator, and there is an online form that you fill out if you want information from them. At your individual institutions, and if your project as it moves forward will involve, say the grant you're writing, say Dr. Drew at MUSC decides he needs to collaborate with someone at Christiana to elevate his likelihood of getting funding. I'm not saying that's the case, but if it is the case, Dave Gabur is the OSP, the sponsored project, so the financial person that you'll need to know in order to get all of that paperwork that you would need to submit the grant. So if you're going to submit from MUSC, say it's a big R01 grant that Christiana Care, which is one of the other institutions in Excel, is a subcontract on, Dave Gabur is the one you would talk to. Denise Axsmith at Nemours, Carrie Hackett, who you guys at MUSC know, and Charlotte McDermott, whose name you saw earlier at the University of Delaware. All right, but these guys are important to know for the folks at the institutions. And each of you at your home institution probably knows these people already. If not, go meet them. Might be the last one. This is more description of what I mentioned to you when we were looking at the flyer that Aaron had put together. So these are the MedCore sessions, just in more detail. So you can relive what I told you by reading it when you get these resources. All right, so I'm going to ask if anyone has questions, assessments. Anyone has questions about any of that information? Aaron, did I miss anything, Aaron?
I don't think so. What we're looking at right now has information about some of the stuff you talked about, how to find it on the website. So if anyone has any questions about navigating the website or where to find the tools, just email me, and I'm happy to set up a time slot, and we can basically do the same things, the Blue Jeans tutorial of the website. The other thing, I guess, Rob, is just that anyone can use the MedZone.
Right.
So that's for everyone as well.
So we're at Nemours, which is where I'm sitting, that's where my labs are in my office. We were able to carve out, and I'm sitting in it, so you can see it if you have video, a mentoring, education, and development zone. And it was designed primarily to give clinicians, and clinicians who are online, don't take this the wrong way, but clinicians a place to hide and a place to work on their grants, to do research work, and to have meetings that was outside the clinic. So Jake Drew right now is in clinic. He probably has to be there for other reasons, but he's just calling in. But sometimes it's useful to have a place to go where the nurses and the admins and the other docs don't know how to get you. And in fact, it's hard to get to the room I'm sitting in from the clinical area. Everyone can use the med zone. The folks in Delaware are welcome to sit here and use it. You might not be able to see, but there's a smart board. We're using Blue Jeans, and there's 4 computers. So there's sometimes multiple people working here at one time. We're trying to figure out how to iterate that in other institutions. So it's a little, every institution is different in the way it's set up. So the Value Institute of Christiana is a good place that you can go and do work unencumbered by the other clinical responsibilities that you have. So everyone's, has access to this. If, Dr. Pellegrini or Dr. Drew, if you come up to Delaware, and we would love to see you, and you need a place to call home, you can take one of these desks and we'll give you the key and you can lock your stuff in it. And you can get into this room and use it as a mini office while you're up here. Same thing if anyone's coming from Christiana or down from Philly, and you have a meeting and you want a place to work in between that meeting and another one, the med zone is set up for exactly that purpose. So scheduling it, if you just need it to work in, it's a good idea to contact Aaron or Mary to make sure there's no conference or a phone call or something set up. But otherwise, you're welcome to stop by. If you want to use it for telephone conferences or Blue Jeans conferences, contact one of those guys to make sure it's available and to get your name on the calendar. All right. So I didn't think we'd need an hour. We're actually closer to an hour than I thought we were going to be. So I'm going to open it up one more time. See, did I miss anything? Nope. Open up one more time for any questions. Just unmute your microphone if you have a question. If everyone's got all the information that they need, I will send you the hard copies. So I need to, Aaron, do you have a list of everyone who is on this call? Or can you get one?
Yes, I have everyone's name on here. So I guess the one thing we just need to touch base on is, I think if I remember correctly, which could be wrong, but on the expectations for the mentee and the mentor, I believe there are signature lines. So they would have to sign that, review it, and sign it, and send it back to us once they get it.
Okay. So I don't know if they were here. Actually, these are the mock-ups. Yep. So when you get these 2 things, sign them and send them back, and we'll explain that in the cover. Aaron, had you sent any of this out yet?
No, because the awardees weren't announced right before. They're announced right after I left. So.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll get this stuff to you guys in the next few days. If you have any questions along the way, and we'll touch base with you routinely, and we'll see you guys at the Junior Investigator Network meetings. And when the course starts in January, Melinda will be teaching a lot of those. I'm not sure who all the lecturers are, but I'll routinely pop in just to make sure if there's anything you need from me or any way I can help, the process of you getting the grant that you're writing together, don't hesitate to call, right? So, and I encourage you to contact us often if you have questions or problems. Our program will be assessed on your success in getting the grant submitted and hopefully funded. So it benefits us. We really want to help you, but you also benefit the program by taking advantage of what we have. And if there's something that we don't have available or you can't find what you're looking for, let us know that too. And we'll try to put something together for you or connect you with resources. All right. Thank you all very much for your time. We'll be in touch. If you have any questions, let us know.